accurate. So this is the first time we've ever owned a Pur Sang Bugatti Type 35. And it's an interesting car, and it's way different than I was expecting. You know, we've seen lots of replicas, whether it's Cobra replicas or Porsche replicas or, you know, Ferrari replicas. But the Pur Sang is very different. I would call it more of a tool room copy, where they've done it exactly the same as the original, and they've also duplicated the process. It's not just a matter of let's stamp out the panels using modern processes. They did it exactly the way they did back in period. The guys in Argentina have done a fabulous job of copying the Type 35. And the Type 35, if you do a little bit of research, is one of the most fascinating, one of the winningest race cars ever. It won over 1,000 races between, call it 24 and 1930. The Type 35 had a couple different iterations. It started out as a 2-liter, maybe a 1,600-pound, 4-speed, super light, very innovative car. Like, some of the things that they did back in the day was state-of-the-art. The fact that they didn't clamp the leaf springs to the bottom of the axle is kind of cool. It had a hollow axle for unsprung weight. Can you imagine in the 20s, they're thinking about unsprung weight? That was state-of-the-art. These cast wheels with the drum brakes kind of cast in them, that was state-of-the-art. The fact that they had basically a billet motor with the head kind of built in 2-liter, not only was it state-of-the-art, but it was beautiful looking. Super neat package, and then they just kept expanding on it. You gotta remember, they won over 1,000 races, they won the championship in 26, and from 25 to 29, they won 5 consecutive Targa Florios. I mean, that is a huge feat, and it was really those cars that were the cars that kind of made this car legendary. It was the supercharged cars. It would have been the C's and the B's that really made the car famous. And that's what they replicated here. It's either a C or B. It's a supercharged 2.3 liter, 3 valves per cylinder, and they've done such a fabulous job. If you look at the quality, it's bang on, and so is the authenticity. Let's have a look under the hood. So here you can see it's an 8-cylinder, 2.3 liter, 3 valves per cylinder. It's got the Zenith carburetor, it's got the Root supercharger, and again, very period correct. The guys in Argentina are casting everything. I mean, they're casting the blocks, they're casting the superchargers, the wheels. Everything is made in Argentina, and when you think about it, to tool up for this, that's a huge, huge undertaking. And I think it started out as a labor of love, and once he did one, he realized, well, geez, I can build a couple more. So he builds them to specs for every owner. If they want to do it like a B, if they want to do it like a C, if they want to do it like a T, they can do it sort of any version they want. They can be super authentic with the engine. They can even have like a roller bearing that the original ones have, or they can have a more standard bearing today. So you can kind of build this to whatever you want, but they're not going to build you a resto mod Bugatti. It is true to the original cars, other than perhaps an electric fan that you're going to cruise around in. The brakes, they're cabled brakes, so they don't work any better than the originals. The suspension's very similar. It's one of those cars that you're gonna get the real feel of how this car would have been back in the 20s, or if you could afford today to own one of the original cars. Anywhere from $3 to $5 million for an original car. Super rare, super hard to get a good one. There's lots of bits of cars out there. So I hesitate to use the word replica. You know, it's a copy of the original. It's a tool room copy where the processes were the same. First time I've owned one of these, and I find it fascinating looking at it, how authentic looking it is. And one of the other things they, you know, if you want to call it cheated on a little bit, is instead of having the magneto, they put a distributor, but they hid it in there so it kind of looks like the original one. They have the advanced retard, they have the hand pump oil, so if you're in the corners and your sump is a little low, you can pump it up. You have the brake here, also with the foot pedal, and then you have your shifter, and it's a straight cut gear, so it sounds the part, it plays the part. It gives you that real feeling of what the car would have been like in the 20s. Again, it's kind of interesting where buying the replica, getting to drive it a little bit, and it's a brand new car, so we're not gonna drive it a whole bunch, but I've driven it around the building a few times, you know, taking it up and down the road, like literally maybe a mile or so, but it gets me excited for the real car, and that's really what these cars are all about. There's plenty of guys. Jay Leno has the real things, but he still rolls around in one of these cars because it gives him the exact same feeling, the exact same experience at a fraction of the price, and that makes a ton of sense. The cool thing is it gets guys that have the ability to buy the real car excited about it, and it's kind of a cool way of kind of dipping your feet into that whole 30s race car feel. Keep in mind, a car like this, the 35B, was the first Monaco winner. In 1929, the first Monaco Grand Prix race was won by a Type 35B Bugatti. So I'm gonna let Gary take this for a rip. He's never driven anything this early. I told him, you can start it up with the hand crank if you want, but you gotta watch your wrists, or there is an electric starter, it just makes it a little easier.
So now I get the fun part again, driving this thing. The car really hasn't been driven at all, so I'm just gonna fire it up, make sure it starts, drive it like 2 laps around the shop, and then put it away just so we can check that box and say, yeah, we know that it starts, runs, and drives, but really putting, you know, less than a mile on the car. Let me show you guys this firing procedure because it's a little bit more involved than just giving it a few pumps of gas and turning the key. Now, since I don't have my race shoes here, I'm just gonna take my shoes off because these pedals are so tight together that just a normal pair of running shoes, size 10, will not work. You're gonna have to have either race shoes or run this thing in your socks. So I'll step on the seat here just to get in. It's gonna be a tight squeeze, but you know, any Grand Prix car is a tight squeeze. Okay, let's fire this thing up. So we'll turn the fuel on, open it up all the way. What's next here? We're gonna get ourselves some oil pressure. Make sure the timing's all the way retarded. Open this up, get us some fuel pressure. Probably just 1, maybe 2 is good. Okay, turn the battery on underneath the seat. Maybe give it a pump of fuel. Oh, make sure it's in neutral. We'll fire it up. Pull the timing all the way back. As soon as the car fires. That's good. That's real good. You know what looks like a very old car sounds like a monster. You need lots of gas to get it going. You can tell this car didn't want to spend much time idling in it. It just wants to go. There's nothing more badass than an outboard shifter and being able to see your front wheels as you go through the corner. You know, you'd be able to be so precise on the racetrack with this car, really placing that front wheel. This thing certainly has the power to weight ratio of a Grand Prix car. Holy cow. Does not want to go slow. What a good sound. Holy moly. You know, like 130, 140 horsepower in this light little 1,600 pound car. one of the funnest cars you'll ever drive. So we'll turn the fuel back off, battery back off. That was cool. You know, driving this thing, this is not, like, it's not a replica. Like, letting out the clutch, giving it the right amount of throttle, the sound, this is exactly the driving experience that, you know, driving one of those 20s Grand Prix cars would have given you. You know, it's such a good window into what the racing was like back in the day. You know, how much of a driver you had to be, how much you had to make sure these cars lived, how well you had to shift, and how strong you had to be with your upper body, you know, because there's no power steering, that's for sure. What a cool deal. Man, let's get out of this thing. So, step on the crossbar here. Hop on the seat. Get my shoes back on. All right. So I guess now we've got to ask ourselves the question: do you need a car like this? You know, out of all the easy questions I get, I think there's a couple other cars that may be more obvious than this, but this is near the top. No, you don't need a car like this. But do you want a car like this? Oh man. If you're into Formula One, you know, historic racing, or just love driving, that's one of the coolest driving experiences you can get. Yeah, you want a Pur Sang, you want a car just like this one.
It's an interesting car. I'm real excited to have bought one of these. I think we're gonna own a bunch more. To me, it's a great piece of art, a great piece of workmanship, and an awesome way to experience a super special car that not many people are gonna get to experience any other way.